schools feel like the right entry point to the story.
Yes, somebody entered.
Somebody there? Okay. Say hello and say hello when we raise my finger. Okay?
Hi,
Hi, how's it going, y'all?
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm
Thank
PD.
I'm Clay D. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm Elijah. Pleasure to meet you. Allison and Tyler, I was just talking to them. They'll be on in a second.
All right, sounds
Okay,
good.
great.
Looking forward.
Amazing. Thank you guys for having us. We appreciate it.
Sure
Oh,
thing.
absolutely, absolutely. We're looking.
Are you guys going to be at, sorry, go ahead.
I didn't hear you.
I was just going to say, are you guys going to be at the festival?
We plan to. We go every year, and we're still.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's the plan.
That is the plan.
Yeah, no, we're very excited for next week for sure.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
you'll have fun.
Yeah.
This is your first time?
First time going, yes. Allison, one of the directors,
Great.
Tyler and I, our first time.
It's a lot of fun.
It is.
Let's break it down to him, Clay.
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of screens to attend. A lot of
Networking.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really what you make of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone for years, so there's a lot of opportunities and places and spaces to meet good folks. So
Yes.
just take the most of it and
Yeah.
take advantage of
Just
it.
enjoy. Just enjoy. You will. You will.
Absolutely. What do you guys think
My
is?
favorite was year 23?
24.
24, yes. That's when Issa Rae was there.
Yeah.
When I did Insecure.
Yeah.
Also Denzel Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And that wonderful lawyer, what's his name that we...
Yeah, I can't pronounce her name, but she plays Jack Stewart in Reasonable Doubt.
No, not her. The actual lawyer that's been going out helping people with civil rights.
Oh, you're confusing that with Martha's Vineyard.
Oh.
That's another.
Yeah, we were.
Don't know if you submitted your film to Martha's Vineyard Film Festival, but yeah.
Yes, we were speaking to some people there. They have like a 2-hour limit, and our film's over 2 hours, so we're trying to see if we can get around that.
Gotcha.
Oh yeah, gotcha. Now that's an experience as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully you can be at both, but it's really worth going to both.
It is.
We sometimes go to both in 1 year, so.
Mm-hmm. We plan to go this year too.
Okay, so this is the goal.
We love films. We love talking to people who are creative, because that's what we are. We are creative people, and we love entertainment and film and networking and just asking people what inspires them, which is going to be one of my questions.
Tyler said he's in the waiting room. I think Allison probably is as well.
Hold on a second. We're going to turn up the volume on this. Maybe we should get in closer, Clay.
Mm-hmm.
Should we?
There you go.
Yeah, should we get in closer?
Yeah, moving closer.
How does that look, Aaron, from you?
Hello there. How you doing? Do you hear us?
What happened? Did you turn something off?
Muted. How y'all doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good.
Doing well.
I can see them. Is there any way we can reverse that so we can see them? No? Yeah. Okay. So is everyone here?
We're waiting on Allison, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
She should be on a second.
All right.
Okay, great. So again, I am Queen D, and
I'm Clay D.
And we do interviews and moderate and travel to talk to people like yourself who are in the industry, who love entertainment and love film and bringing messages to our people. We love that. And we do a lot of traveling and networking, and it's a lot of fun, isn't it?
It sure is, absolutely.
Yes. And one of the things that we want to do as well as start actually going overseas, correct?
That is correct.
Yes. Oh.
To film festivals or to?
I'm sorry to hear you.
I was just asking, traveling overseas to like film festivals or other events, or what's been
Yes. Good.
Yes, for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah. We look forward to this film festival. We get invited to a lot of film festivals, and actually we can't meet them all because there's just so many of them. Um, but we try to meet all of them and meet as many people as we can. Um, One of my original background is also radio, and also journalism, and also I was a teacher. So therefore, I'm always interested in what inspires people to become who they are and continue to want to be. So that's my journey. So we all have a journey, and I'm always interested in what is in your heart, what inspires.
All right, looks like we got everybody now.
Awesome.
Hello, Allison.
Hi, Allison.
Could we all put our names for the which one we did in a more
That's good.
like a
That's
uniform?
Okay, perfect. Well, we can get going. We can get started.
Oh,
So
yeah.
let's do it.
Okay. So I'm gonna let you start, Clay.
Well, thank you all. Thank you, Elijah, Allison, and Tyler for being here today, right before the holiday weekend and right before ABFF. We look to go and source that many interviews with many creators and talent and filmmakers, producers as much as possible, because our goal is entertaining, informing, empowering, and inspiring. So you guys all meet that criteria. So thank you.
Thank you so
Again,
much. We really appreciate
So we're going to get right on to it in the interest of time. So I'm going to start with these big picture questions first. So the first question I have for you all is, the phrase attached to this project is, Blackness is not a monolith. What did that mean to each of you personally, even before picking up a camera?
Good question.
Yeah, I mean, I can dive into it. I mean, the idea behind the project when we were starting it out was kind of, how can we create a project that kind of unites we all went to USC, and unites the different Black creatives at USC under the banner of a single project, so that we can work together as opposed to, fighting for these kind of preordained spots within the system. And with that, as the creator of the project, who, his main aspiration is being a director, like, my goal wasn't to direct all three of these stories. My goal was to, bring in as many different Black creatives so that we could speak to all different facets of Blackness. Myself, Allison, and Tyler have, three wildly different experiences, growing up as Black children in the United States. And, we wanted, that to be reflected in our film. We wanted it to be a mosaic of, what Blackness is and what this can be. So the phrase "Blackness is not a monolith," I think it's a colloquialism for sure, but I was really inspired by this painting by Carrie James Marshall called "Portrait of an Artist as a Shadow of Himself," and it's when you look at it, it's kind of this portrait of a Black man, depicted as physically Black, cast against a Black background with shadow. And I think the really powerful element of the painting is that the man, even though his skin is literally charcoal black and the background is Black and his clothes are Black, he stands out amongst the rest of those elements. And I think it speaks to this idea that, there are so many different shades of Blackness in the world. And, to kind of compartmentalize it or break it down as if, there's only one way in which Blackness exists is, a limiting factor for who we are and who we can be as a people.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And my second big picture question is, why was the Pan-African flag specifically the right structure for this story? Not just visually, but emotionally and even politically.
you want to tackle it again?
Allison?
Yeah, I can tackle it again. Yeah, I mean, the Pan-African flag was our way into the stories themselves. You know what I mean? So the Pan-African structure existed before the stories existed. The kind of the method in which we went about creating the project is we had this idea to tell these three Black stories based on the colors of the Pan-African flag, and then we took the kind of expanded themes behind, or definitions of the themes behind those colors. That being, the bloodshed for liberation, our existence as a nation, not as a nation state, and then the prosperity or the natural wealth of the motherland. And we distilled those three ideals into three themes: liberation, unity, and prosperity. And once we had those three themes, we sought writers to pitch stories that fit within the guise of those ideas. You know what I mean? So it was 3 entirely separate writers who had their ideas separate of the film, pitch it to be a part of the project, and then we developed those stories within the confines of the kind of thematic framework that we had created.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Was there a moment at all where you realized this could not be one single narrative, but there had to be like a conversation between 3 different Black experiences?
Well, I feel like that's a question still for Elijah, considering that, and just giving more context, like he was communicating. Allison and I were brought on after the project had already started, and so a lot of the origins and initiation of it did start with Elijah. So yeah, go for it, Elijah.
Yeah, I mean, it was always going to be 3 stories, based on the 3 different colors of the Pan-African flag. I think that, one of the main elements of the project was, obviously showcasing this diversity of Blackness, but also one of the main goals was to make sure that, it flows tonally and it feels like one collective piece. And because of that, we had to kind of find through lines in the different stories that we were creating in order to, tell one coherent story that also exists as 3 separate stories. Some kind of examples of that are, the protagonists of our film represent kind of subversions of historical stereotypes that have been used to subjugate the Black image. So ideas like, Buck, the big, masculine, physically strong man who maybe doesn't have, multiple layers to him. That is an idea that is broken down in Red. The title of Red is Black Men Don't Cry, and it's a story about this football player who is grinding to make it to the league in order to retire his mother. He has this very singular idea of how he can see it and how he can be a man in the world. And he's, when he gets injured, he's got to break down, okay, what are my paths forward, and liberate himself from the ideal that this is his only path. I can let Allison and Tyler kind of speak to the characters in Black and Green, but those protagonists are the man, which is the Black woman whose existence is solely in subservience to the white household, and then Green McCoon, the Black entertainer who exists to perform for white audiences as opposed to perform for maybe what would truly be Black, if they want to jump in and talk about their characters.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
So, Allison, I was reading some of these questions that Clay put here, but this is a good question too. When he speaks about the character Joanna as a Ghanaian single mother facing job loss and isolation, possible deportation, what did you want the audience to understand about the loneliness of immigration inside Black life?
Yeah, so I'll just kind of briefly hit upon the previous question as well, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Thank you for having us, any opportunity to talk about the film and to share with others. This is what we made it for.
Oh, you're
So,
welcome. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I mean, it's been even longer for Eli because he's like the brainchild behind this. But it's been about a couple years of us just talking amongst ourselves about this film and trying to figure things out. So it's really dope to share with other people.
Oh, Lord. Yes.
Yeah, but I'll just briefly say, like, as a product of immigrants myself, my family's from Jamaica, and when you're from another country, you always realize all the different things that you bring to the Black experience. But when you walk outside, you quickly also realize that it doesn't really matter. So many people are taken for face value when it comes to being a person of color in this country. And you just have to be able to confront that head on and understand that a lot of people don't see Blackness as a monolith. And so I think each of our stories are really important in understanding how we should really be more curious about the Black experience, more curious about the Black diaspora in general, and really sensitive to the fact that a lot of times the divide between our cultures is not a simple process. It comes from lived experience, it comes from slavery, it comes from deportation, it comes from immigration, it comes from separation. There's a lot of things that are within the Black community that make us the way that we are. And we would hope that these films just kind of like briefly shine a light on that. Um, as for Black and Joanna, I was reading um, Chris Abani's, one of Chris Abani's work. He's an incredible novelist from Nigeria, for another film that I'm writing right now. And he had this really beautiful way of saying, the world isn't changed by large actions or large deeds of good, but by small, almost invisible actions. Things that probably people don't notice or see. Just inherent kindness. And I think this film is a product of that. It's a woman who starts the film as a person who judges the African American community as a Black immigrant, and she shuns them, but then realizes through these small acts of kindness, it opens her eyes to the fact that she has prejudice within herself and she needs to change. And so I think not a lot of times we talk about that divide between Black cultures within America and how we have to coexist. And she discovers that the community that she once shunned has exactly what she needs. It's valuable, it's wealthy. So I think, yeah, if people can understand like small acts of kindness and empathy can make a huge difference and a change within the community, and not to take it for granted.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that. I looked at Clay because Clayton has a background of his parents, not his parents, but his grandparents being from Jamaica. And we, and I'm from New York, but my family coming from the South. And we talked about the unspokenness and how even though we are still people of color, how the culture is so different. And the experiences that he had to go through and the experiences that I have even moving to the South was so different from being from the Northeast or New York. It was unbelievable. So when you were talking, I was just thinking about some of those things that I had to adapt to, and even with church and fitting in and learning to just fit into different cultures. And then, like you said about the kindness from the churches and different things that I've experienced. So you're absolutely correct. We may be brown and different shades of brown, but there is an unspokenness in our culture and things that we need to start talking more about, because it is definitely something that is needed. And I really appreciate you expressing that.
100%.
Yes, 100.
Yeah, this another question I had. This film appears to use red, black, and green as emotional and political chapters of Black life, whether that's liberation, unity, and prosperity. How did each of you approach your color and your theme?
I can start since I haven't talked. And thank you once again for having us on here. How did I approach green specifically? So the script was already written when I came in. Well, it was the first draft of it was written, and I think for myself, you know, I worked with the writer and we brainstormed of different ideas and connections over the past couple of years. And something that I specifically, I would say, brought to it was, I would say a couple of things. One, my lived experience. The story was about, a man who is trying to support his family, right, through financial means as a sitcom actor. And I know that for me, I lived in New York for like 8 years, originally from Virginia, but lived in New York, went to school there. And after school, I ended up working on Wall Street for a little bit. And I was really attached to this idea. I'm not going to even say attached, but it reminded me of my experiences working within an institution, working, trying to support myself, possibly my family down the line, and wanting to show, I guess, and I'm even trying to, I always reflect on it now and then. Um, I guess really like just like be my best self as a Black person, and I wouldn't even say like Black representatives within that space, but there's only so many of us within Wall Street, within different institutions of that nature, that I wanted to excel and make money for my family. And so seeing John Tavius, the main character of Green, going through something similar, right? Trying to figure out how does he continue to move through this world as a Black man, knowing it is turning slowly but surely into racist caricature. As the showrunner has changed the show, I really wanted to bring a sense of the psychological aspect that has on somebody, and how it has on a lot of Black people around the world when dealing with white institutions.
Mhm.
And a huge aspect that I wanted to lean into specifically was, and I call it, how I define the genre is Afro surreal psychological drama, right? This idea of one, the Afro surreal aspect of it, where, um, us as Black individuals, our experiences with white individuals are surreal in themselves.
Yeah.
So we no longer have to act like it is a surreal moment as a typical genre, but our experience as Black people
Mhm.
and what we experience is surreal, hence the Afro surrealness. And then also the psychological aspect of it, right? How and what is going on through our heads, how we see it, how we experience it is a lot different than what might other people see from just plain view. Um, and it constantly impacts us each and every day,
Yeah.
to the point where there are moments where there is like thriller and horror within the film. And I feel like when entering into these spaces, it does impact us. At least myself and how I saw it uh, through that experience, trying to figure out how do I manage and maneuver through this institution. And so, yeah, I would say that from that experience, from that mindset, from those genres, um, it really impacted how I saw the film and how I wanted other people to see the film, and even like different comparisons of Bamboozled from Spike Lee or Dancing in September by Reggie Blackwood, like different films like that really
Mhm.
also impacted how I saw it and different, references of that nature, and also the Color Museum by George Sewell. So, like, yeah, I think that was a huge component of how I approached it.
Oh, thank
Perfect.
you. Yes.
And Elijah, your segment deals with a football player whose
Yeah.
self-worth is shaken after injury. Why did sports feel like the right entry point into a story about Black masculinity and liberation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, going back to kind of the kind of connective through lines between the chapters and why stories were chosen and built up in a certain way. One of the main things that we wanted to do was kind of showcase one of the many ways in which Black people are shown in media, or I guess one of the few stereotypes that are seen in that Black people are seen as in media, and one of those main elements is as an athlete. Other elements, as reflected in Black and Green are, immigrants and entertainers. But specifically for the Red story, we wanted to focus the subject on an athlete. Kind of going back, the main theme, the expanded definition of the theme, liberation, is the bloodshed for liberation. And going into the story, we knew we didn't want to tell a story of physical Black bloodshed, because that is something that we see a lot in our history, especially our recent screen history. It's been a lot of things, stories about, slavery and, inner city crime and that type of stuff. And we wanted to go away from that. And instead of, showing, physical bloodshed, tell a story about, other ways where we think we need liberation in our communities. And for us, a big element of that was emotional liberation for Black men. So we kind of, wanted to take it to the extreme. What is a place in which we see Black men, kind of being boxed in? What is an arena in which this kind of physical sense of masculinity is shown, which is maybe the opposite of an emotional masculinity, and the arena for that became football. I think growing up, being part of a large sports family, there's a lot of pressure on me to succeed in athletics and specifically in basketball. And I think that there is a lot of pressure on a lot of young Black men to kind of be seen as this provider, be seen, maybe not in my situation, but in other situations as, a quote unquote, like taking out of the situation. And that is an extreme psychological pressure for a young man or a young woman to go through. And in this instance, we wanted to showcase, a young man going through that psychological pressure, whether it be, real or built up by his own imagination, by the images that he's seen. This is the only way he has out of the situation. And what happens when the kind of floor drops out from that situation, and where does he move next?
Thank you. So do you feel, how has it affected you, even though you was explaining about the character, how has it affected you in your life?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I come from a really large sports family where that is everything. And, for me, the moment when I realized that, sports weren't going to be my career, that I was not going to have a, professional career as an athlete, it left a void in me, you know what I mean? Like there was this kind of, empty pit of, okay, what is my purpose like? Because you put so much time into these things and it is your obsession and it becomes everything. Tyler can attest to this to, having played college collegiate football. So, when that void happened for me, it was able to be filled by, another passion that took hold of me, and that passion was filmmaking. And really, the story of Red is a lot about, how can you fill that void as a young Black man in your life, when athletics no longer is, what are the other paths forward that you can take? And it really hopes to elucidate the idea that, this is not it for you, you know what I mean? Like the use and abuse of your body is not your only path. And for me, I was lucky that I was able to find that in filmmaking. And I think if one thing that could come from, young Black men watching this movie, the hope would be that, have hope to find your thing as well. You know what I mean? It doesn't need to be football. It doesn't need to be basketball.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
For sure.
Yes.
And a lot of Black men in Atlanta are taught to see talent, athleticism, and more productivity as their way to be, as a way to free your families, essentially. How do you want to explore that emotional burden of being viewed as a family's escape plan?
Yeah, I mean that like as I said, that is extreme psychological pressure for a young kid to be going through. And I don't think it, I think that a lot of things have gotten better over in recent years. Like we've been seeing changes in the NCAA with NIL, which I think are, things that, people can debate on. But I think that overall, positive structural changes, because, a lot of times, collegiate athletes, for most of the history of collegiate sports, is built on, essentially the labor of young Black men to profit these kind of larger institutions that, put on these games. And there's a real like gladiatorial sense to it. I wanted to explore in the film. I'm glad that those changes, have come. I think that there are, ways in which, that system still needs to be modified and regulated. But I mean, I'm glad that we've kind of worked towards a system where, that is a path forward. But the kind of flip side of that is now there's even more pressure on, younger Black athletes to, to be successful, to market themselves, as, 10, 11, 12-year-old kids. Because now that money is, more attainable, it's closer to reach, because the percentage of, young Black men who are, going to make professional sports leagues is very minuscule, but the odds of you playing in college sports is much more manageable. So that does put a lot more pressure on younger Black athletes to succeed. So looking forward to kind of working through what are going to be the solutions to that going forward.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
And there is a powerful distinction between liberation and external freedom, and liberation as eternal release. Which one was harder for Amari to reach?
Yeah.
It's a really good question. I think that the internal is harder for him to reach because he feels, like he is aware of well, not to diminish him, but like he like his present awareness is focused in the external form of it. You know what I mean? Like that is what he strives for every day. So the internal is kind of the subconscious thing that's, you know, pushing at the seams that he needs to break free from, but maybe he's not, you know, consciously working towards it. And I think that lack of awareness is something that, you know, he, you know, gains throughout the film. You know, the story is a lot about, you know, how we as Black men kind of generationally pass down these ideals of, you know, success and masculinity. And you know, it really comes down to him confronting, you know, the person who instilled these ideas in him, his uncle, who's, you know, one of the primary characters of the story, who was a former athlete himself. You know, without confronting him and you know, honestly being shown the path by that character, you know, he's not able to recognize the internal turmoil that, you know, he needs to break free from.
Thank you.
Perfect. And this question is for Allison. The care packages in the story felt like a quiet act of collective love. Why was it important for unity to show up, not as a speech, but as action?
Mm-hmm.
You're muted, Allison. But I think she said, can you repeat it once
Can you
more?
repeat that last part? I didn't hear
Yeah,
that.
for sure. The care packages in the story, they feel like a real quiet act of collection love. Why was it important for unity to show up, not as speech, but as action?
Mm. I'm having a hard time hearing you. I'm so
They
sorry.
said the care packages specifically was a
Yeah.
collective love, and why is unity important to show up as action rather than just talking about it?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think the biggest form of love is through action. And I think a lot of times when language kind of divides us, and you know, obviously Joanna and the people in her community don't speak the same language. Um, Actions ring true as true care. You know, our Troy character could be doing anything, but he's here giving baskets to Joanna and her daughter. And I think that selfless small act speaks volumes, especially for a masculine character, to show that level of care. And I think that was one reason why we wrote that character in, because we wanted to show that African American men can care, they can show love, they are capable of having empathy, as opposed to the images that we normally, or understanding of Black men that we normally see. There's a gentleness there. So I think, um, you know, having that action performed was a big piece of showing love, but then also having a character like Troy being the one doing it, I think was also a statement we were trying to make. That nobody is really what they seem on the outside. The only thing that you can judge is their actions and their heart.
Right. Who were some of your mentors growing up, or even now, that inspires you?
That's a great question. I think I always say that I am a product of my mentors, truly.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, truly. So I did have, I mean, if I had to think back, like my elementary school, or eighth grade teacher, really, a homeroom teacher, was the person who kind of sparked the life into this pursuing of art as a business.
Yes.
We just had a normal conversation in class where we were asking people what they wanted to be when they grew up. And for some reason, I was the only one who didn't know.
Oh, wow.
And he was really alarmed by that. But then I was also thinking, I'm in eighth grade, I have time to figure it out. But he pulled me aside after class, and he's one of the strictest teachers in the school. Everyone is afraid of him. So him just saying my name loudly is intimidating. So yeah, he brought me to his desk and was like if you don't have a direction of where you're going or idea of where you're going nowhere. And so he really worked with me also because I was a very quiet student. I was very shy. So he really took me under his wing and was like, I'm going to have you do assignments outside of school. And I know you're an artist, but you need to figure out a direction for your life. I have no reason why he was so adamant about like really working with me on the side. But he made me do research papers about different
Wow.
forms of artwork. And so after I did my research paper about film, I was like, that's the one. And that started the journey. So, Mr. Stokes.
Shout out to Mr.
Was-
Stokes, all the great
was the
teachers out there. That's wonderful.
Mr. Stokes.
And so, what would you say? What's some of the gems that you could drop to some of the young people out there, especially girls, women like yourself, who are thinking of direction or going through transition in their life? What would you say to them?
I would say it's hard because everything a director is opposite of what we expect and want from women in society. I feel like even speaking up as a woman sometimes it is revolutionary in some ways.
It is.
So I would say that the person should not subdue themselves or alter themselves in any way when they're approaching directing. Hiding is probably the last thing that you should do as a director, because it is your specificity and what's unique about you that people will come to you for. And I think if you hide that or mute that within yourself, you're robbing the world of what is special about you, and you're robbing the world of what your purpose could have been on this earth. So I would just say not being afraid of the role of directing, because it is very masculine and it asks you to be outside of yourself in many ways, but to embrace it and to be your full self and to not be afraid of making the films about the weird things that you and only you like, because somebody will see it and resonate with it.
Thank you. That's awesome. That's beautiful, because eventually you will find your tribe. Don't dim your light for anybody, right?
And this is also for Allison. How did you approach the relationship between the African American community and the African immigrant identity without honestly flattening either side?
I think it's because I'm a part of both in many ways. So I am Caribbean American. Both of my parents are from Jamaica, but I've had to grow up as an African American. So, you know, just like Black people code switch with outside communities, I code switch with African American communities, and just had to figure out how they both operate.
Right.
And so once you do that, when you are an outsider, you study other communities in order to learn how to survive. I think it's kind of just an unspoken thing people of color do.
Yes.
And so for that reason, I've understood that African Americans are much more than they are led to seem to be. You know, as you said, people from New York are very different from Virginia, are very different from Florida, are very different from Texas. So there are nuances within that culture that I have been denied before. So because I've been denied of those nuances, I make an effort to find those in other people. So I never want to create characters that are I guess one note in some way. There's always more to the story.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And this is for Tyler. Tyler, Green asks basically what prosperity costs when representation itself is compromised. What drew you to telling that story as a speech? Sorry. What drew you to telling that story through the world through the lens of a Black sitcom?
Well, once again, in terms of the story specifically, the writer, Quay, he ultimately came up with the idea of the sitcom itself. And I came in, you know, to help workshop and add a visual aspect and a component to it as well. But as we were talking, I think that one of the key components of, like Elijah was saying, of Black identity, other than sports, is entertainment, or how we're viewed and perceived of anyway within media. And so, being in this position where you are an entertainer on TV, right, and representing your culture for everyone to see, I think that it does put a mirror up for us as we watch it of like, these are the people that we're watching, right? Or who we think they are, and then who are they behind closed doors and how are they operating? And I feel like a lot of the times when we think about entertainers, we only get to see the image that is given to us by news outlets or media, whoever's covering on them. But we don't always know what is behind, what is going on in their head. What are they dealing with? What are they struggling with? And I think in a lot of ways, seeing Jontavius move through this world, seeing what he ultimately wanted was a family that is, I guess, quote unquote, respectability politics, like the Bill Cosby type of family, right? In order to show other children who might see it, or other individuals, this is the type of the Black experience that you should try to strive for. And I think that as the showrunner comes in and starts to change things and manipulate things into Black caricatures, right? And I always say that Blackness is not a monolith, right?
Right.
There are different types of Black people who've gone through different experiences, socioeconomic, location, demographic, all the X, Y, and Z. So I don't even want to say it's negative, but it is when a showrunner is portraying it to be negative and making fun of the negative stereotypes that we have often had to endure through history within America as Black people. I think that shows a whole different aspect of how he approaches it and how he ultimately, realizes, do I want to portray the person that they want me to be in order to make laughs, in order for people to laugh at us, or in that regard, and in this specific case, a lower socioeconomic family. And so I think that, with all that said, I think it gave us the two worlds that we needed, behind the scenes and on the scenes when we're acting on camera, in order to portray the different type of Blackness and the different type of element in regards to, showing up for ourselves and approaching prosperity.
Speaking of prosperity, it's usually treated as reward, but in one particular segment, prosperity does seem more morally complicated. When does success become a trap?
Yeah, when does it?
Success and coming, you're asking all the philosophical questions of the world.
Of course.
I mean, I would say that, for me, short and sweet, success becomes a trap when you are no longer recognize yourself and what you stand for.
Right.
I think that a lot of times we've all experienced some type of moment where we ask ourselves, should I be doing this? In some shape or fashion, within our profession, within personal relationships, within, our careers. And so in this specific situation, Jontavius is asking himself, should I go forward with this racist caricature, even though it might give everything I need and want for my family? It might put my kid into a really good school and set him on success as a Black man or a Black woman to be successful in life. It might set my wife up for success so she doesn't have to work again and she doesn't have to carry the burden of being a Black woman in society, right? So all of these different things are going on in his mind, but at what cost, right?
Yeah.
How does that impact us as African Americans, as Black people, as we see ourselves, as little children who watch the show see themselves in that situation? And so I definitely wanted to explore the complexity and nuance of prosperity, and it's not black and white. There is a lot of gray in how we ultimately approach life. I'll say it because it's current. The Kevin Hart roast specifically, a lot of people are on the fence about was that appropriate, was that not,
Right.
right? Like in terms of the racist jokes that we heard and everybody laughing on screen.
Yeah.
What is that ultimately view as Black folk? How do we stand up for ourselves, and how do we let people within our space speak in front of us and about us, right?
Yes.
And I would say that I'm sure that he was doing it out of genuine love. I'm sure he was, from his perspective, right? I don't doubt that he was trying to support his family, his friends, his community, and add love to a collective as a whole in the U.S. But at the same time, at what cost of how do we represent ourselves, right? How do we approach being Black and allowing people to speak about us in such a way, regardless if it's for fun or love or community, knowing, and then there's an important aspect of it, the historical element of what we have gone through within this country, and knowing how it impacts and hurts people.
Yes.
So I think that, when talking about that, when discussing it, it's important to, when you do hesitate, at what cost, how does this show up in me as a person and what I stand for, and how does it show up as a community and what we stand for? And once again, right, I know I brought it up. I'm sure there's a lot of complex and nuance, and maybe even things that he didn't even know was going to happen. I don't know. I won't speak on his behalf, but I will say it's important for us to always ask ourselves that question: at what cost? And when we feel like it's not standing for who we represent ourselves as, what is important for us at the end of the day? And is it money, or is it prosperity as us as people?
Absolutely. So who are some of the people in your life, or things that has happened in your life, that has caused you to be so deep and in depth with how you think about us as a people? What has shaped you to be who you are?
Yeah. So many people. I mean, it starts in elementary. I went to all Black elementary school, all Black, and it was instilled in me at a very young age. It's just like, this is who I am. My family, my church. I went to all Black church. Right? It was just at my core, I knew who I was and what I had to represent for my people and for myself at the end of the day. And they instilled in me so many lessons of just Black as beauty and showing up for myself. I would say, it also extends to my brother and my dad and my mom, sister, just like representing Black culture and like the important Black figures within our lives. My brother taught me about Malcolm X and Franz Fanon and Martin Luther King and all the different people who stood for something within the Black space and how we show up and how we represent ourselves. And then even like different, I know I said I worked in white institutions, but I also worked as an elementary school teacher in the Bronx at all Black elementary school. I worked with teenagers at an alternative incarceration program, and seeing what they endure on a day-to-day basis, maneuvering society and how the world treats Black youth. It's important for us to stand up and I had to teach them, and they taught me so much about what it means to be a Black person within America and the identity that you have to hold on to and be proud of in order to maneuver within society that often doesn't, shine light in a positive direction at us. So I think that there are just so many different individuals who have shaped my mindset around Blackness and what it means to be Black, and how we should be, stand 10 towns down at the end of the day, and how we move.
That's, you're one of the special ones, because everyone is not blessed to have that type of background with such positive influences. So thank you for that. I appreciate you sharing that. So what are some of the gems? What type of advice would you give to young Black people, even older Black people? Because, life is, you continue learning as long as you're alive.
Never forget, your ancestors.
I agree with that.
Who came before us and showed us the way, and got us to where we are today. Even though we are still fighting, we've come a long way. Never forget your family who has supported you through it, right, in order for you to be and stand where you are today. And never forget about the people who are still currently doing the work, day in and day out, who allow us to stay who we are today, even amongst everything that's happening in our country. Right, there are people who are fighting for us every single day. And then never forget yourself and what values that you stand on and how you show up and fight for yourself and fight for your loved ones and fight for other people around you. We are a collective, we are a community, even though we're not a monolith. We share a sense of love for Black folk in order to keep uplifting us into a better state of society, into a better state of community, and just a better mindset of who we are. So yeah, don't forget that. Never forget who you are and the people around you, and it'll take you far.
Absolutely. Fight the good fight. It's a fight, but
Got to.
got to continue the journey for everyone else. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
And Elijah, let's close on this. So, what are the misconceptions about Black storytelling that Three Colors push back against?
Yeah.
And what does healing look like in this film? Is it individual, communal, generational, or all three? So yeah, if you could just expound upon those.
Well, what was the phrase that you heard what you said before the second part of that question?
Right. Repeat that. I'm sorry.
Could you repeat the second part of the question, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, what do you think? What's one misconception that you think that this film pushes back against? And secondly, what does healing look like in this film? Is it individual, communal, or generational, or all three?
For the healing element of it, I think it's all three. I think that one of the things I love about this, like the film as a whole, is it kind of attacks an idea of healing from so many different facets. I mean, for Red specifically, like it definitely is kind of a generational, sense of healing. As I kind of spoke about and to expound upon, Red is very much about like the ideals of masculinity that are being passed down through generations, and like I think the goal would be to put forward a future where maybe these ideals are still held to a certain extent, but shifted to be more nuanced. You know what I mean? So that they are monolithic. And I think that healing comes through in a generational way, as I spoke to, because it's not something that Amari can go through on his own. It's something that he needs to go back into his past and touch upon that wound and find that the root of the issue so that he can push forward in his life. I think Black speaks a lot to this kind of communal sense of healing. I think one of the best elements about being Black is having this kind of, and I know we spoke about having different shared histories, and of course that's true, but there definitely is a sense of affirmation you get from knowing that your ancestors went through a similar struggle, knowing that in your direct history, our parents, a lot of them went through the same struggles, and then knowing that we, of course, present day, go through a lot of the same struggles, and there's a sense of comfort that you get from knowing that and from finding solace in that, and from knowing that it's going to be okay because we have each other. And I think that Black speaks a lot to if you do accept community into your heart, especially in today's day and age where communities are shrinking. I think a lot of the institutions that we talked about in this call, things like churches, people aren't going outside anymore. Like the world is becoming divided by this kind of digital technocracy. I think that's one of the other big elements of the film is finding community and really believing in storytelling from our peers as opposed to storytelling from a screen. I think there's a lot of healing to be done, communally from that perspective.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
And as we close, how can we follow each and every one of these, and how can we and everybody else support this film and continue to support this film after ABFF and beyond?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to kick it off, we've been running our own social media marketing campaign on Instagram. I think that's our platform of choice thus far for promoting the film and kind of creating a community around it. We were lucky enough to put on a screening of the film this past weekend, and we were able to get almost 400 people to show up and come be a part of the film. And I think in the Q&A after the film, one of the main questions was, how can we continue to foster this sense of community? How do we continue to get people out, out to see the film? Because I think that the worst thing that could happen would be, for the film either to not be seen. The worst thing from our perspective, would be if either the film goes by the wayside and is not seen, or seen by people, just sitting by themselves. I think that there is a communal element to the film in the way in which it was created, and we want the film to be viewed in that communal element because that's how you get the best response and reaction and experience with engaging with a film is when you see it in a movie theater and when you see it amongst your peers. And we want this to be a film that is seen in community spaces. We're planning on, we spoke to, potentially doing screenings amongst church groups, doing screenings for university students, which, we kind of plan to do in the fall in the LA area, hopefully do that. And then from there, we're hoping to, engage in our own theatrical, small theatrical run that, focuses on eventized screenings, so screenings that are shaped around Q&As and other similar things like that in communities that we have already fostered. We all come from different places in the United States, and so we have those kind of community bases across the country. So we want this film to be seen in theaters by as many people as possible, and we're going to do everything we can to make that a reality.
Thank you so much.
All right, well, that wraps it here today. Well, thank you all again for your time, and we hope to see you on the ground in Miami.
Yeah,
but other than that,
you.
we will stay in touch, and we will do the best we can to support this project.
Yeah, we really appreciate you taking the time out, and everyone out there, please go and see this film, right?
Yes, Three Colors,
Play.
absolutely. So definitely follow them. We will share the information out. And
Definitely.
just keep on what you're doing.
Fight the good fight, as they say. Okay.
No, we
Hope to
appreciate
see you guys in Miami.
Thank you so much.
See you then. Bye-bye. We appreciate you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Enjoy your weekend.